We work through these in steps with lots of explanations. Let's just get this one done. So we're taking the right-hand side JPEG, and this is the one, the registration point is in this lower right-hand corner. We're going to drag this down, drop it on Photoshop, and once again, Command-N, Command-E, Command-T, and we'll flip this thing around, and this time, hit return to accept that. This time, I'm going to go down to pin light. And once again, Command 0, well, Command plus, we'll go to 200%, Command minus, there we go. So we can see what we're doing. And then Shift Command N, E, and then make it a smart object, and then we're going to do a motion blur. And that's a little shortcut for the motion blur. Let's get out of that. It's under Filter, Blur, Blur, there we go, Motion Blur. And now we've got 30-degree angles in both directions. So 30 degrees will play right along the geometry. You got to be careful the distance. The distance goes way up to 2,000. You don't want that because the edges, it will just, it will make the outside of the picture very unattractive. So 55, kind of a nice number. There's nothing magical about it other than I was born on 5/5/55, so I got a thing about fives, you know, the 125th day of the year, which is 5 times 5 times 5. You know how that works, right? And I don't remember what I did there. Let's just call it darken. And then we're going to give it some color. Come up to the adjustments. Once again, we're going to colorize. Pull this thing over somewhere near blue is what I did. A little more saturation, a little lighter maybe. And then it's just Shift Option Command N, E for an everything layer. Turn it into a smart object. Take it into Camera Raw, Filter, you know, Camera Raw. And then enhance this. And I'm not going to take too much time. I know I upped the exposure a little bit. Played around with that. Now, these you pull back and forth to see what happens. And I kind of liked adding a little more texture and clarity and then played with some of the other sliders as well. But that is a matter of taste and how you do it. Here's the original. Let's take that up to 200%. So we're looking at the two together. You can see this is much lighter than this version here. But you can see the geometry is the same. So those were the steps to reproduce this. Now, freelance, what else can you do? The idea that that registration point from Illustrator was on, well, I guess it's right here, on this point or this point. The reason is because when you flip it, you want the geometry to align with one another. You want it to line up. And then there are other options. These aren't necessarily stopping points. This could be a jump-off point for an entirely new layer stack, trying something new. What happens if you combine these two images? There are so many different ways to work, experiment, and just, you know, crash and burn, start over, or go, yeehaw, look at that. That's amazing. How did I do that? And because we're working with smart objects, hey, what were the settings on that motion blur? Well, you double click it. There's the settings right there. Hey, what was that blend mode? Hey, look, it's right there. All of this stuff is right there for you. You can see what you did. And naming layers is always a good idea. That's what I was doing back here. You leave yourselves breadcrumbs so you can remake, rediscover, and then play off what you learn can work. But different images, the same tricks won't work. The same blend modes don't work. Different images require different settings, different combinations. If you find yourself just replaying the same steps over and over and over, well, number one, Photoshop has actions too, and you can just make an action, have it all happen at once. But your work's going to be boring and you're not going to make any discoveries. Just remember, don't push it too far, too dark, too colorful, and by too colorful, I mean just blown out color. You know what I mean? Have fun with this. All right. That was fun. Now back to the Chargers. Let's see what's happening in the second half.